Oh boy. Hope you guys are doing well. Hanging in there. Hope everyone have my meteorologist Brian Good. All right, I forgot my name. It's been that kind of a week. All right. Apologies too for some of you that were got the notification on the news app and have been waiting here for a while. We had some technical glitches I had to work through before we can jump on. So I apologize. Appreciate your patience. For everyone else just now joining on social, hello to Kentucky Girl on YouTube, Tracy. Good morning to Amanda. Angela, that last round of rain last evening completely missed Spencer County. It did. It was close to grazing in the Louisville area and perfectly skipped us, right? Just to the south. And it was a pretty ominous one, but it was actually a saving grace in a sense, too, of the storms we had yesterday afternoon that kind of helped on allowing that to taper down, which was a good thing. So I'm about to tell you that we're going to do this all over again. Normally I say, you know what, maybe we'll get a break today and we'll have a chance to relax. We'll relax for the rest of the month of July. It's the last day of the month. But that's not the case. It is still very much a pattern that just keeps repeating. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's going to take a drastic change in the upper air pattern, not the lower layers of the atmosphere. The upper air has to change before we see a change here at the ground level in terms of tracking showers and thunderstorms. And that's going to take some time. And we do see that change coming, but it's not going to be today and it's not going to be tomorrow. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is a very fluid setup. Aaron, I saw your comment. I got to put you on there. Any snow? I miss you, Aaron. No snow here today. Hang in there, Aaron. Hang in there. You know those days are coming. I've got snow talk ready to go. In fact, let me just for emotional purposes here today, because in fact we need something to look forward to, right? So just for fun, let's see, where is it at? There it is. Aha, there you go, Aaron. Snow talk. Waiting for you right here, Aaron. Coming up on Halloween, a winter outlook will come out. We'll see. I have a lot to already discuss, I'm pretty sure, on the winter side. I'm working on it. But today's not the day. Today's not the day to talk about it. So unfortunately, Aaron, we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait on that. Okay. So let's get into how this is going to play out. And I'm going to explain the scenario because I really want you guys to understand the challenges that we're facing too as meteorologists, but I think it's helpful for you guys to understand too what we're looking at, so that if you are looking at the radar and you see one thing going one direction, one thing going another, as far as the plan today, you have an idea of what is happening and what could happen next. So I'm trying to help you guys out and be a little junior meteorologist as well, because you really have to stay on top of these kind of setups because they do change and evolve rapidly. Yesterday was a perfect example of that small MCS in Illinois. Not a single model had it developing into Kentucky, and it did just that. So, boy, that took away confidence. So that was a big mess on our end. Every meteorologist in, but even I felt like on my end too, because it was not long after we did the blog that it was obvious the MCS was heading into our area, and that changed the entire day. So, all right, let me quit rambling, and I will get to your questions coming up in a minute. I know you guys are going to have quite a few, especially on timing and location. And as you're about to see, I may not be able to answer that entirely, but I will get to those in just a second. But you feel free to talk amongst yourselves. All right. You guys can see each other's comments on the social media side. You can't see it on streaming. If you're watching on the app or on Roku or Apple TV or the Fire Stick, you can't see those fly up in the chat. If you want to see it, though, you can keep up the stream and just get onto Facebook, and then you can go in there and chat and ask your questions there. All right, so there is an opportunity for you guys to communicate. But again, if you see someone that has a question, and while I'm discussing it, because I can't always see the screen very well until I'm done talking. So if I miss it, then try to help each other out and answering it for that person if you're able to. All right, I appreciate you guys. Your own little community. All right, you guys are friends. You guys can handle that. All right, it is nice out today, at least right now. It's humid, but we got some decent sunshine. We had a few downpours around this morning, but they're starting to fade out to the east there. All right, here is the radar loop. Going back, I don't do this often, but I think it really tells the story. This is going from Sunday to now. And a look at the animation of these MCSs, which I'll say that term often, and we'll say it on TV often. MCS, mesoscale convective system, basically just a big blob of thunderstorms that holds together and tracks as its own little locomotive running on the railroad itself. And they're easy to pick out once they form. It's really determining how well they maintain themselves, how strong will they be? Do they lose their kick as they move in a certain direction? All those are more challenging answers for us, or challenging questions for us to answer. But you get the idea where we've got the high pressure still out here into the plains, and we are in the ring of fire with the showers and storms, and the MCSs just follow the same path right down into actually Savannah, Georgia. So they start in the Rockies, work their way into Iowa, enhance into thunderstorms, cause problems to the Ohio River Valley, all the way through Georgia and Atlanta, and then exit in Savannah, and actually keep going in the Atlantic Ocean. Our MCS from even yesterday is still ongoing out there in the Atlantic. So these things last a long time, and you can get more than one. And we have so much daylight in July that we can get a complex of storms. We can then bust back out in sunshine, recover enough to allow a second round. So it's a little different than the spring season or even late summer into early fall when you try to get some of these thunderstorms or complexes. It's a one-shot deal and they're done. But this is common in July. It really is. Most of the most damaging MCSs we've ever had on record for the Ohio River Valley and Wave Country have been in July. So 2004 was the anniversary of the one that happened into Bowling Green. I think it hit 84 miles per hour, 86 miles per hour when that one hit. Louisville was over 70 miles per hour with a lot of damage. That was in 2004. That was the first week of July, I believe, that we had that one. So our history has even told us that July has been a rough month for the Ring of Fire type of setup. Only reason why I'm mentioning that is that 2004 is what I'm working on as an analog year for the upcoming winter. Okay, anyway, so that's the overall setup of where we are with storms, okay? Here's where the radar is now. We have a area of thunderstorms, not exactly an MCS. It's more of it's a small little ripple. It's not full-blown MCS yet. It may develop into one once it passes over the Smokies later today. I can't rule that out, but that's moving away from us. Our attention, once again, is Illinois. Boy, this looks familiar. And there's actually another one. You can see it right there into Nebraska that is waiting. So we already have two that are showing up. But here's one thing that is worth mentioning. When you get a very hot environment like we do have, especially in the Central Plains and parts of the Ohio River Valley, you can get MCSs to sometimes even develop and form and develop their own ripple. If it's unstable enough, that can happen. They pop out of nowhere. And I'm not talking about a pop-up thunderstorm. I'm talking about a pop-up complex of thunderstorms. That can happen. We haven't seen too much of that yet. I do think, though, today will feature something like that. And I'm looking at you, Ohio, for that potential. All right, let's start with the closer view on the satellite and radar, and you can see the thunderstorms. Nothing severe, but boy, they're putting out some heavy rain. I think we had a flood advisory out for portions of Russell County not long ago. It may still be in effect. So some very heavy rain. You can see it's almost training itself, kind of sliding south, but also gently heading to the east. So there's some training going on I-75, and that's a rough area in travel. You guys know if you try to get through the mountains and head toward Atlanta or heading to the beaches, and you got to get through I-75 and travel through Corbin, you get into that terrain there, and you get some heavy rain. It's a mess. So big problems on travel there, and so there are a lot of delays in eastern Kentucky. But our attention is Illinois, where we got the showers and thunderstorms. I've mentioned the locomotives. These are like locomotives moving on through the area. But what about the train track? That does vary a bit and is the important piece. And the best way I can explain that is showing you, this is the 500 millibar level, high up in the atmosphere. But it really is what we look at as meteorologists to see where these things will track. Today, the flow is a northwest flow. If you look carefully at the wind bars, that's a northwest flow, and the colors indicate a strong wind speed. So the flow from Illinois is right into Kentucky and eventually into eastern Tennessee. So basically what we've seen as of late, a little more east than what last night was, and yesterday. Yesterday was a little more this way into West Kentucky. Today it's a little more over Louisville or Cincinnati, somewhere in that area, because this model may not be exactly right, but I want you guys to get an idea of that is the flow. That is the main reason for us to be able to track storms, is looking at the train track aloft. Down at the ground level, it's messy. Everything's moving in different directions. It's a little bit chaotic. The best way I can explain this is that this is like the I-65 flow going through Louisville. And say when you exit off the interstate and you get on Eastern Parkway, Bardstown Road, St. Catherine, and downtown, whatever it is, all the streets change, right? You get off the exit and you go left, you go right, whatever. That's how the lower layers of the atmosphere are. It's much more of a jumbled mess. But the I-65, the big flow over our head, is really the one in charge of how these things will move. Tomorrow, look at the flow. More of an east flow coming in, heading west to east across the Ohio Valley. So there's a bit of a change here tomorrow. We'll see what happens because that, again, is model-based. So the models have done great, but it is hinting that we may have a little bit of a different direction tomorrow. So we'll see how that can influence the weather and storm chances coming up. I'll explain in just a few minutes. Okay, so here's a close-up view on the radar. Again, the sun is back out. We've got some thunderstorms there in East Kentucky, but our focus, of course, is going to be up here into Illinois, where they had a severe thunderstorm watch out. I think it's still out. I didn't plot it on here. My apologies. Let's see, but I'm pretty sure it's still there. Yep, it is still there. Okay, so there's the current severe thunderstorm watch in Illinois, in nearly the same spot as yesterday, just FYI. But notice ahead of it, the sun is out for around Indianapolis, through Terre Haute area, Bloomington, IU campus. The sun is out there. So at the moment, the trend is to still show that there is some heating. Now, I'm going to show the CAPE or the fuel a little differently today in different colors because I want you guys to understand what will be a driving factor too is the amount of fuel that's building. This is showing on the past few scans how the fuel out of the Southwest is basically being injected right ahead of this MCS. So that tells me that this thing is going to keep going. Some of the high-res models completely make this disappear in about 2 hours. They did that yesterday, FYI. Some try to hold on to it, as you'll see, and some discount it. I think with the fuel being added in like it is, this is not going to dissipate. It will keep going. However, the fuel is coming in from the Southwest. So my thinking on this is that the southern part of this is going to become the main dominant feature and may aim a little more west than its current track. We'll see. That would follow, the I-65 corridor of wind flow, the upper pattern there. It would match that. The fuel, though, is the lower layers that will dictate any little slight turns this thing could make. The whole thing may follow a general path, but at the ground level, it could easily build left. It could easily build a little more to the right. And that makes a difference in whether or not it's your neighborhood or the next one over. And in some cases, it could be that specific. So the fuel is going to continue to inject. So I think this is going to continue to build up to the south and to the east. Indianapolis is getting ready for a severe weather event for them as we know this afternoon. And here's what the fuel does for the rest of the day, all the way through this evening. You see how it really just takes over Illinois, Indiana, into central Kentucky and around Cincinnati. So there's not much to stop this from really forming or weakening, I should say. So it likely will be the main feature, and that's going to time out for this afternoon. I alluded to earlier, there's an opportunity or chance you can get an MCS that can form right over you. Remember that. And I mentioned Ohio. Yes, it would be right here near Cincinnati. There is a small little weakness there and a little ripple, if you will, that an MCS could form there. If it does, MCSs are like Pac-Man. I've mentioned this before, that they love humidity. They love moisture. They go and eat it up. So they will actually, it looks like they turn toward the higher moisture, but they just build that way. If it forms in Ohio, it will do that. It will want to go where your higher humidity is, which is south and southwest. So that MCS, if it were to form this afternoon, would also try to invade wave country. So we could get two, one out of Illinois, one out of Ohio. Which one is going to get here first? Which one's going to impact this? Oh, that's a good question. But that is the challenge that I see for this afternoon that will likely carry into tonight. But those are the two zones today I think we need to be aware of. Illinois, what happens there over the next few hours, and then do we see a new development of MCS around Cincinnati today or in Ohio? And we're going to have to take this hour by hour. I'm going to show you a weather model, but weather models are junk in this scenario. It's just too complex of an ordeal to really grasp. And they're going to keep changing every time they update because the atmosphere is changing constantly. So the models can't keep up with a complex scenario. So this is where meteorologists interject, of course, and we're looking at it just by using the tools we've got. Fuel, the radar and the satellite and knowing where the upper air pattern is, and we put a forecast together. And that's what we're doing today. So storm chances are going to go up this afternoon. Alert day is out. We're going to keep that alert day out all the way through tonight. Will we get another alert day tomorrow? It's looking likely. I don't have one out yet for it, but it's likely. Okay, so that's the overall setup. Let's get into the SBC outlook. This updated an hour ago. They've got a slight risk out for the area and an enhanced risk where that one that's moving out of Nebraska today. The heat and humidity is very intense in this area. So that is really going to enhance the wind, the damaging wind threat into Iowa, and they'll get large hail too in that area as well, because they'll be starting off as cells when that little ripple from Nebraska moves in. So they've got an enhanced risk for them. However, looking at the damaging wind potential, which is hatched in that area, they have alluded that there is a chance that if we end up with a damaging MCS coming into Kentucky, especially if the one in Ohio forms, they may upgrade part of the area to an enhance this afternoon. SBC is alluding to that. The next update is scheduled for 12:30. So we should know by then if that's the case. Outlooks, they really don't change your life a whole lot, right? But they do give us an idea on confidence, and that's what SBC really is there for, is to give us a confidence on how this will play out. Okay, as far as your tornado potential, it is there. We saw a tornado touchdown near Evansville last night. National Weather Service is actually surveying at the moment in Evansville, and to determine whether or not, what type of tornado it was and the damage scale. So we should have that information later on today if you guys are wondering. But it's a low-end threat, but you can still get them. They're very hard to detect because they're usually embedded in a lot of heavy rain. You're not really going to see them in many cases. So storm chasers really are not able to help a ton. We just have to go by damage reports that are coming in. And when we get a big surge of damage reports or a big surge of power outages in one particular area, it gets our attention. And then we can track if there's debris being aloft in the on the radar up into the air. That is also a signal. So there are ways for us to detect these tornadoes, even if we can't see them, by using the radar technology. But that is still there. It's a low-end threat. That will be the case really with any MCS that moves through. Your hail threat, not as high, again, because we don't have a lot of the cellular portion of this moving into the area today. It will already be organized. So it's mainly just a wall of wind and heavy rain versus back in again into Nebraska and Iowa. They're going to start off with supercells forming along that little ripple that moves out of Nebraska. And therefore, their large hail reports up to about 2 to 3 inches in diameter actually will happen there. All right, here's the outlook tomorrow. Notice it's tilted a little more. Remember that I-65 river of air that I was showing you? And remember how it's a little more east in its direction. So they tilted it a little more to account for that flow heading more east-west. But remember the Pac-Man idea. Even if the main MCS takes that motion tomorrow, the southern part of it could still feed and build due south, because it'll attack the higher dew points, the higher moisture levels. So it's a little misleading when you see this because it could still dive south, but the general idea is west to east. Okay. I feel like I'm repeating myself a million times. And you get into Friday, it's a low-end risk, but I don't know if we'll get much of an MCS set up on Friday. So I'm hoping that Friday will end this round coming our way. CSU, in case you're wondering about that, they only update twice a day. So their update's coming up again soon. Is the breakdown of tornado, let's see, hail, and then straight line winds. It may be really hard to see, but straight line winds is over the Ohio Valley, although they do focus more into Ohio than they do Louisville for that higher threat. And then tomorrow, very similar, mainly north of us, close to where that slight risk is for damaging winds. Okay, so I just want to at least pass along. A lot of you guys like looking at CSU, so there it is. Okay, here's Futurecast. This just updated. So here's what we're going to do. Olivia, you haven't missed anything yet on the timing. I'm about to come to that. Hang tight. Here is Futurecast. In fact, we're going to go through this together. Note the clock at the top. Pay attention to where you're at on the map. I hope you guys know where you are. Type 1 if you know exactly where you are on this map. Type 1. If you do not know where you are, it's okay to ask. And if I can't help you, someone in chat will, of where to look on this. But this is important. You need to know your location, because when we get into severe weather coverage, you're going to see so many maps. We're going to be flipping around through different radar views and and wind fields and all that. So you kind of need to just get your bearings right. Keep an idea of the city next to you and always kind of adjust yourself to that as we go through our coverage. So I'm hoping I'm going to see a lot of ones. All right, we got a Q. Marcy, you okay? Marcy, let us know if you need help, okay? But I see a lot of ones there. Very good. Okay, so here's Futurecast. Again, this just updated. So let me rewind this because, man, I went too fast. All right, so let's see if this is anything worth looking at. There's the Eastern Kentucky stuff. All right, it's got that. A little slow with it. Here comes the MCS out of Illinois to be seated. It doesn't know what to do with it at 4 in the afternoon. It's got something moving through Indiana, but it weakens it. I think this is going to be way more pronounced than what you're seeing here. I'm going back and forth and looping it here. But the 4 to 5 o'clock window, I think this is going to be much more active than what the model says. So we're going to have a higher rain chance compared to the model. We get into tonight. Now you see this is a little more of the Ohio influence of an MCS here that forms and tries to dive in. You see how it moves backwards almost because, again, it's feeding on the higher dew points. And that's late tonight. That's a 10 o'clock midnight time period. So that's the reason why I think there's really at least 2 potential rounds. This afternoon with this MCS moving by, and then this evening for whatever comes out of Ohio. That is going to make the entire window of the afternoon through midnight likely the alert day window to cover both MCSs. Okay, it moves on by. The challenge I got for the overnight is going to be flooding because I'm seeing a signal. Let's see if it's still here. We may end up with thunderstorms that will be training themselves all through the night in an angle from Indiana all the way down to, say, Campbellsville, Greensburg. It'll be at a slant. I can't draw on the screen to show you, but I do think that will be filled in a little more overnight tonight than what you see there. I think we're going to have more pockets of heavier rain for overnight tonight. I'm not worried about severe weather, but flash flooding would be the big threat with that. We get into Thursday. All right. Well, it wants to bring in another MCS early in the day. All right. Early in the day wouldn't be bad. That would tame down things a bit until we get into the afternoon, until we get, well, another one that moves on by. But notice the motion on this one on Thursday night. It's more that east or west to east flow. It's kind of flying by with the upper air pattern. So that's the latest HER, and it stops there at 2 a.m. on Friday. So timing, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and put, again, higher rain chances for the MCS moving in out of Illinois this afternoon. I'm going to go about 60%. I think Indiana and the 71 corridor, Louisville is majority of that 60. If you are south of Louisville, and I'm talking even as close as Bullitt County to E-Town area, there is a chance you could miss the first one here out of Illinois, to where your main focus would then be what happens tonight. I went with 40% through about 10 o'clock. I'm going to look at the Ohio potential. If I see a stronger signal for that, I'll raise that back up as well to account for it. And it may just be a flat 60 to 80, 90%. It may be up there. All right, I can't go 100, and we want to in these scenarios, but they don't always hit everybody, so I can't go 100. But I want you guys to see that it's high. Okay, so this afternoon, pay attention. And I'm talking just after lunch. We'll see what happens out of Illinois as it drops in around 4 to 5 o'clock. If we luck out, and that does indeed fall apart, I'm not sure much of a reasoning why it would, but if it were to, let's say the HER's right, we will be able to take the rain chance down for the first wave. But it would certainly mean that the second one that would move in out of Cincinnati and Ohio would be a high rain chance and could impact, at that point, that one may impact everyone, and it would move backwards. If we get the first one and it's really aggressive this afternoon, widespread, almost like we had yesterday, yes, because I know you're going to ask this, would it then mess up the Ohio one tonight? And your answer to that would be yes, it would. It would allow it to be a weaker. I still think it would form. I still think it's going to give us rain, but it would not be as intense thanks to the first one messing up. Again, one affects the other. It's a cause and effect of these two. They kind of just, they don't get along. So they, when they're close together in timing, things kind of go haywire. So that's the timing idea that I've got on this whole thing. Is everyone clear on all this? If not, let me get to some of your questions. Now is the time to ask. All right, Bob, you got it. I just covered that one, so you're on the right track, Bob. Good thinking. Yes, it would affect it. Let's see. Carla, Supposed to fly out of Louisville at 6 a.m. Thursday for Salt Lake. I love Salt Lake City. Impacts and flight delays. Well, the only impact you'll have will be just if there's still some active heavy rain bands in the area, and I do think there will be clusters of that. You may have some delays because you're going to have to space out the takeoffs and adjust the flight pattern a bit. So I don't think there'll be cancellations, but there may be a requirement. The FAA always requires spacing in an active storm scenario. So the planes that when you get on, you may be sitting on the tarmac for a while, waiting in line for your cue to be able to take off. So you could have delays in the morning. So it may still be able to board on time, Carla, but they may keep you on the plane for a bit to make sure it's okay. That's my assumption now, but we don't know. We don't know until we get to tomorrow morning what the radar will look like. But if I had to go with what I have now, that's my thought. I hope it doesn't help. Brad, so you're saying no snow tonight? That's correct. I don't see it yet. That could easily change, though, Brad, the way this week's going. We're supposed to be having watch a show in Bardstown tonight, starting at 8. It could be canceled. Megan, yes, it could be. Stay close to the forecast, but again, with that Ohio MCS, that is going to be a bit of a problem. Tawana Andrew, hi Tawana. I guess you're a recent viewer. Can we make the weather quiet again? I'm tired. Sure, we can do that. It's at least $25 though, unless you have a Kroger Plus card. It may be $18.99. Okay, let's see. All right, get another question in here. Missy, good morning. Tuning in a little late. It's all right. Welcome. How's it looking for Eastern Jefferson County this afternoon? Okay, obviously Louisville. EP Tom Sawyer Park. Oh, you want to go to the pool? Are you working at the pool? Okay, well, that's nice. Pool sounds really good. It is going to be hot. I haven't really mentioned that. It is going to be just a hot setup, and the longer these take to move in, the higher the thermometer is going to get, right? It'll get into the 90s. So it will be hot, but just be aware once you get into that 2 o'clock hour, keep an eye on the Wave Weather app. Just keep looking at the radar. If you see active weather dropping in out of Indiana, the chances of it weakening is going to be pretty slim. It will probably aim toward Louisville, so make sure to keep an eye on that. We're going to send out alerts. I can't stress enough on this Wave Weather app, guys. We can customize the alerts and send them to you based on your notifications and where you're at. So make sure to open it up where your destination is. That way your GPS location services for the Wave Weather app will be able to locate you because we draw only in certain areas. So if I wanted to alert Megan and EP Tom Sawyer Park, I'm going to draw just around the park. If I just wanted to alert the park people in the pool only, obviously we alert more people for today. But just as an example, only the phones would go off at EP Tom Sawyer Park with that alert. So it's important to have that active on your phone. That way we can find you. And we'll just keep you guys updated and send out as much details as we can. Sometimes it gets really hectic and busy around here, and we can't do that. I promise you we try, though. And it's got natural alerts built in for warnings, of course, and for heavy rain and lightning. So those are helpful in general because those are automatic. So that is a good idea to keep that handy. All right. I see a lot of specific questions. I'm not going to be able to get into all these specifics here. I know I probably started something there with answering that one. Let's see. Bailey, what's the risk level tonight? We're at a slight right now. It could go up. If we end up with, especially the Ohio one, I think it could go up to an enhanced, but that's a maybe woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of thing there. Austin, you should not be able to say the 5-letter word in summer. Storms? Oh, S word. That's not a 5. I was trying to think, what's a 5-letter word? Anyway, sorry about that, Austin. Yeah, this is the only time of year I can say snow without getting yelled at. Missy, thank you. I'm usually the one who's watching the radar to alert the lifeguard. Thank you, Missy, for doing that. And again, keep an eye on it and monitor how this is going to play out for this afternoon as well. Danny, Illinois MCS comes in, but is there concern to recover to rise for the Ohio MCS not to be affected? The window is going to be short. It depends on how quickly this Illinois one can get in here and how it evolves. Again, that southern flank of that, let me try to back the radar up. The southern portion of it was trying to build, and that may try to skew it a little more to the west. We'll see. But that is the way it looked at that time. Let me kind of bring in the watches and stuff here. Hold on one second. And since we don't have a midday show, I'm able to spend a little more time with you guys. So This is nice. I'm not always able to code this long. Okay, so you can see how this is evolving. Again, the environment here in Indianapolis is becoming unstable. We'll see if this can power up. So far, it looks like that portion is weakening, but this one is likely to become the new lead, the way it's looking right now. So this one will likely take over and enhance as it moves across Illinois. That would then require some type of severe thunderstorm watch. That would be something like that could come out later today. That is based on the idea that it holds together and moves into Illinois and Indiana. What can cause it to weaken? Because I mentioned on the fuel, the one thing that can cause it to weaken is if we get too warm above our heads. That creates an environment that is a little more hostile for MCSs. They don't like that, and they can disintegrate in that environment. We have that now. We can't display that. A lot of the data comes from the planes that land, especially UPS here in Louisville, but whether it's Indianapolis or here, the planes, of course, have weather data that they measure as they come in for a landing and take off. Weather Service does have that data. They can see it, so they're able to tell when the pilot is coming in for a landing, is the atmosphere stacked the way it looked on the modeling and how analysis is looking. If it is not, if the plane records a warmer temperature on its approach than what was expected, then that tells us that the environment is a hostile one, and therefore the thunderstorms will struggle. At the moment, the only report I saw was the one, there was a plane that was coming in for a landing in Indianapolis. It was indicating that it was starting to erode. The most recent flights that were coming in, that it was allowing for an unstable setup. So that tells me, at least in the short term, there should be some type of powering up toward Indy. But in Louisville at the moment, we do have that layer, but it should erode, and we naturally have it in the morning hours anyway, and it usually erodes as you heat through the day. So we'll see if that is the case later on. But this is the main issue for the afternoon, and then we'll just see whether or not one can form in Ohio this evening or not. Not all the data says it will, but I think it fits. It fits. So I think it's something worth watching on that. All right. Good question. Good question. Okay. What else we got here? And I'll try to get into the long term because I do have Futurecast to show you guys for the long term in just a second. Let's see. Brandon, onto the western part of the Union area. We'll get a break today. Yeah, possibly. If that doesn't build more west this afternoon, yeah, I do think you may get a little more of a break in Breckenridge County. And we'll just have to see what happens with the Illinois or the Ohio stuff. If that forms and builds backwards, will it reach you from that direction? But that would be later tonight. That would be tonight if that were to happen, Brandon. So just hang tight. We're watching it. Storm Chaser, Jason Hamilton. How you doing, Jason? Always good to hear from you. Brain's a little tired from the past few days. Ready for a snowcation soon. Trust me, I think we're all kind of walking around. I haven't had a chance to even enjoy the Olympics, guys. I haven't had a chance to watch anything. I know what's been happening. I've been hearing the highlights, and I see now that they got swimming on now. I would love to watch it, but we're just not able to. So it's kind of a bummer because I love gymnastics. I love watching the swimming and the diving and all that. But yeah, this week is not kind to meteorologists. But that's all right. That's all right. We're good. We'll make it. Kevin, is a good grass cutting day. If the yard's dried up enough to do that, yeah. Mine's still just waterlogged, so I can't mow yet. But in some areas, you may, especially if you avoided the rain yesterday, you may be dry enough to do it. But I would try to get a mow in if you can, because as you're about to see, we're not done with rain. Jeremy, thanks for the hard work. You're welcome, Jeremy. We're here for you guys. So everyone is just taking shifts and kind of walking it one step at a time, right? Okay, so let's get to the Futurecast. What's going to happen next? Well, as we get into part of the weekend, there will be the front itself is going to settle into the area. We do have a front settling in. There will be a low pressure. There will be a rain chance for Friday and Saturday with that low pressure nearby, mainly east, though. It's trending more east of 65 than west. We'll watch it, but it's not an MCS pattern at all for really later on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We're done with that. We get knocked out of that pattern. Thank goodness. Over the weekend. Once we get into next week, it's all about, if this were October, maybe late September, early October, I would call this a season changer, cold front. It's got a nice kick to it. It's July, though, or will be August when it arrives. So it's not going to be as dramatic as you would think, but it is a good thing to see on a weather map, and interesting, too. And we've seen it several times, too, this year, right? These Canadian fronts. It is showing up and wants to make a dive down to the south. And if it does indeed dive south, we would get a round of thunderstorms along the front. That timing on that would probably be a week from today or Thursday. That is still kind of fuzzy. That would happen. By the way, it's worth mentioning we've got the models don't know what to do with Debbie, which is the tropical wave that hasn't become Debbie yet, just FYI, but it could. GFS wants to take it to the Florida Panhandle actually and leave it there for 3 days. Can you imagine a tropical storm or even a low-end hurricane for 3 days just sitting there? It's crazy. Euro, though, says no, it's going to go out to sea and not bother anyone. Either way, tropical systems do not like cold fronts. So seeing this cold front dive down, this Debbie wannabe is not going to want to try to get in our area. It's going to get stuck somewhere here into the Caribbean or in the Gulf, Western Atlantic. We'll see what happens. It depends on how fast the front moves, too. It's got to get here quick. If this thing slows down, and I'm really hoping it doesn't because that's going to stress us all out. But if it slows down, yes, then we could get a tropical system to move north because it would see an opportunity to try to sneak in on us. But right now, we're thinking the front will get here first. And if it does, low humidity could take place. And take a look at these numbers. And you see it at the end of the 10-day. We get into the 90s. We're going to be hot. That isn't going to change a whole lot. There's the front. Wednesday and Thursday, showers and storms. And then 84 on Friday. And you don't see it, but I've got us at 82 for that following weekend. And dry. So we could get some really nice bonus weather. There may be a nice little gift here at the end of all this drama. So we just got to be patient and wait for it. David G, and hey, would you explain what MCS stands for? Sure. It stands for Mesoscale Convective Systems. Sometimes you will see MCC, which is Mesoscale Convective Complex. They've got all kinds of little nicknames. Basically, what you need to know anytime we say that is just a big blob of thunderstorms. But they usually have a lot of severe weather with it and heavy rain. And we've had a lot of heavy rain, guys. So the flooding threat, I know damaging winds and an isolated tornado threat always gets attention of a lot of people, but you've got to be really aware of the flash flooding setup because we've had a lot of rain, especially in Kentucky. So I think if we end up, especially with the repeating rounds tonight, I think flash flooding is going to be a problem overnight tonight. So please just pay attention to the streams. Be careful traveling if you work second and third shift and you can't see the roads very well. Use some caution. All right, I'm going to end it there for now. I will. I may be back on with another update this afternoon. We'll see. Hopefully, you won't see me all afternoon, or Ryan or Kevin, because that's going to mean that severe weather is happening in the area. But just like yesterday, because of the Olympics, if it's really big, we'll jump on and let you know. Otherwise, if it's a general severe weather event moving through the area, we're going to be covering it here on social media and certainly on the Wave Weather app. We'll be there. I was on the air with Ryan yesterday for 3 hours straight. Kevin and Ryan were on for like 2 hours last night. So keep that in mind. We'll notify you if we're on, so you'll know that we're doing our coverage. But we will be streaming. So you have ways to still get our coverage, even though the Olympics are on there. So we don't, we try not to upset anybody. And at the same time, I get the information out and try to keep you guys safe. All right. There you go, guys. I'm going to run for now. Stay safe. And I will see you guys coming up on the flip side at 3 o'clock. We don't have severe weather. We do have a newscast that'll be streaming at 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. All right, guys. I'm going to get a drink of water, relax a little bit, and hang out with Tawana. I'm worried about her.